Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alison, the online piano and violin tutor. So since it has been several years since I released my original violin lessons 1 to 10, which are now beginning to look a little bit dated, I thought it would be a really good time to revisit and release new and up-to-date videos using the latest technology available to me. As well as updating all of the free PDF sheets from the original lessons, I've written a songbook 1 that will accompany these lessons. Once you've finished lesson 10, I then encourage you to have a go at this songbook, which contains 10 well-known classical and original pieces, which is going to help you practice and reaffirm the knowledge and skills gained from video lessons 1 to 10. What's great about this book is that instead of hunting all over the internet trying to find suitable pieces to play for your current level, only to find pieces that you like but are too hard, this is where the Songbook 1 comes in, as it will not only contain pieces you'll be able to manage, but each piece comes complete with its own separate video performance and tutorial where I will help you through the piece. So let's get started with the new violin lessons 1 to 10, and I hope you enjoy them. Okay, so in lesson 9 I'm going to be talking about all the other notes that we won't have come across in the exercises or in the previous three to four lessons. Now, back in lesson 3, I briefly kind of talked about this, which I will link these sheets, there's 3 of them, I will link these directly underneath this video. They're free for you to download and print out. Now, what we did for lesson 3 was I showed you that you have this basic chart here which has nothing in, none of the notes. So this is probably something that you could go back to now at this point and fill this out, because you should know where the notes are on the music, and now you'll know where the notes are on the violin as well. So you've been playing all the exercises and you've seen where they are on the music, but sometimes when you look at the notes, you know where they are on the music, but you don't actually know what letter they are. And even though it doesn't really matter, I mean, for example, if you're looking at this from the 3rd finger exercise and you pick a note and it's that one there, and you know right straight away that is the 1st finger on the D string, that's great and that gets you playing the music, but what letter is that? You know, if someone says, oh, play me an E, where is it apart from the open E? You've got to find where that is on the violin. So it's kind of like a twofold kind of thing. So you know where the notes are on the violin. Now it's time that you knew what the letters were. So when you are playing a 2nd finger on the A string, what letter or what note are you playing? So this is where this comes in. So see if you can fill this in, if you can, from all the knowledge that you've kind of learnt thus far. And remember that, you know, it goes up alphabetically. So you've got the answers on the next sheet as well. So obviously try and do the sheet before you look at the answers, but with some of the notes, which I didn't really touch on earlier, for example, when you've got your 1st finger notes, that gives you on the G string, starting on the G, it gives you an A, an E, a B and an F sharp. Now when you put the 1st finger down on the E string, on the dot in its regular position, that gives you an F sharp. Now it just does give you an F sharp, and that's just something you just need to suck up and learn. So the note you need to play is an F sharp. So the violin is not like a piano. So for example, the violin will like to play in certain keys that piano will, and vice versa. So the piano likes playing in the key of C because there's no sharps and there's no flats, which means there's no black notes to contend with. The violin does not like the key of C because of where the fingers need to go. The fingers like to be in a nice uniform place. So for example, the violin likes playing in sharp keys. So for example, if you've got the key of G, there's an F sharp in the key of G, and that's where this comes in, where you've got the F sharp. If you have no idea what I just said there, and I was speaking in a completely different foreign language to you about key signatures, don't worry, it doesn't matter. You haven't missed anything important. It's just for those of you guys who do know what I'm talking about, that will just help make sense. But if you don't know what it means by key signatures, do not worry, you haven't missed anything. When you go on to the next set of 10 lessons, which is lesson 11 to 20 from my violin book 2, that would explain everything in there. Those will be linked. The next set of lessons will be linked underneath this video, by the way. So the next thing is that when your 2nd finger is back or next to the 1st finger, like I said in one of the other previous lessons, we haven't been doing that in the exercises, but that's going to give you a B flat, an F, a normal F, a normal C and a normal G, like a G natural if you want to call it, C natural, F natural. If I haven't written anything, you know, any sharp or flat, just assume it is a natural or just a normal note. Our 2nd finger notes that we have been doing next to the 3rd finger gives us a B, an F sharp, a C sharp, and a G sharp. So those are the notes we have been playing. So again, suck those up, remember those notes. The third finger notes we've been playing are C, G, D, and A, and then the fourth finger notes that we did cover in the lesson before this is D, A, E, and B. And remember, the fourth finger is the same as the open string above it. So the fourth finger on the G gives us a D, which is the next open string. Fourth finger on the D string, which gives us an A, is the same as the open string above it, which is also an A. And then the fourth finger on the A string, which gives us an E, is the E string above it. The only one that doesn't is the kind of exception to the rule is this one, because we don't have a B string. We would if we did, but obviously we don't. So you can kind of use this to help you fill in. So this is, I mean, you can print this one out, the plain one out, as many times as you like to help you remember it. But this is just kind of a suck it up and remember it kind of thing. And the reason why I've kind of put this as your basic notes are, these are the notes you are going to be using. I mean, you don't need to worry about the second finger notes that are close to the first finger quite just yet, because we haven't done those anyway. But we will be doing those in the songbook 1. So if you've got the songbook 1, that's where that is going to be, that is where that is going to be coming in, and you will need to know that. But you know, it's good to know this anyway, because these are the basic notes that any violinist or any starting beginner violinist should know anyway. Now after that, you've got the advanced notes. So this is preparing you for when you move on to the next set of lessons, lessons 11 to 20, they're linked directly underneath, or when you move on to Songbook 1 at the end of this 10 video lesson course. So these are the advanced notes. Again, this is kind of an FYI for your information kind of thing, and just something you need to suck up and learn as well. So when you are putting your first finger between the G string and where your first finger normally goes, I'll show you that in a second. It's going to give you an A flat on the G string, then it's going to give you an E flat, a B flat, and an F. So what that means is this gap here between where the first finger goes and this is called the nut. You can sort of feel, if you move your finger back, you can feel like a bit of a ridge. This is called the nut. So you're not really halfway between, but you'll pretty much go right up until you can sort of feel the little ridge, till you can feel the nut of the violin. So as I said, on the G string, our A is normally on the dot here. Bring it all the way back gives us A flat. Then we've got an E on the D string here. Bring it back gives us an E flat. Then we've got a B on the A. Bring it back gives us B flat. And then because this is already F sharp, remember, bring it back brings us to an F natural or a normal F, whichever you kind of, F natural is the official term. So it's not F and F flat, remember, because this is F sharp. It just is. It just is. Okay, and then the same with the other one. So you're moving with a second finger. Let's just say, let's pick the G string. If you put a second finger right next door to it, it says it's going to give you a B flat. If you put the second finger right next door to where the third finger would go, it gives you a normal B. Then the third finger in its normal position is here, so that gives you a C. Then the next line, which is in blue, we've got third or fourth finger notes. Now this depends, what you'll do, it depends on what the music tells you. So if the music says you've got to play a C sharp, then you're going to stretch your third finger just slightly above the dot. So the blue line is here, and you're going to be just slightly above it. So imagine if you had your finger on it, it's kind of just right above that blue dot. So that's a C sharp. But if the music tells you to play a D flat, you're going to play it with the fourth finger. If you've got a sharp and flat of any note, you want to play it with that corresponding finger. For example, on the G string, staying on the G string, if you've got a B flat, you want to play it with the second finger. If you've got a normal B, you also want to play it with the second finger. So then the same would be true on the D string if you've got an F natural and an F sharp. So you'd want to be playing both of those Fs, depending on what the music says, with the second finger. You don't really want to be playing F sharps with the third finger, bringing the third finger back. It's just very unnatural to do that on the violin. So with the only exception of the third stroke, fourth finger, you can kind of do either or, but it depends on what the music is telling you. So looking on that sheet, if you've got a C sharp, play it with the third finger, because the third finger normally plays a C. So if it's a C sharp, stretch the third finger up. The fourth finger would normally play a D. So if you're being told to play a D flat, then you just sort of move the fourth finger back a little bit. If you have a look at the on the A string, for example, the third finger on the dot would normally play D. So if you've got to play a D sharp, stretch the third finger up a little bit. The fourth finger, sorry, would normally play E. If you've got to play an E flat, then you just flip the fourth finger back. Don't try and play an E flat with the third finger. Technically, it will give you the same sounding note, but it's not really good practice to do that. When you're working very quickly on the violin, it just gets very confusing because you instantly see a D sharp and you think third finger because you associate the third finger with a D. So to play a D or a D sharp with the third finger doesn't really matter because one is there, one is slightly stretched, and you'll learn that as time goes on. So when you move on to the songbook 1, you can use this to help you refer to where the notes are. If you're unsure, or perhaps you don't, maybe you're not even watching the video, it doesn't really matter. You can use this as a nice little reference chart, but don't use this to learn the notes because you'll have learned most of these anyway by going through the exercises, and you learn by playing music anyway. You can't learn to read music or learn the notes just from kind of looking at paper. It's got to be sort of part of the instrument as well. So thank you very much for watching lesson 9. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in lesson 10, where I'm going to be setting you guys a bit of a challenge to consolidate everything that you've learned from lessons 1 to 9. So I will see you in lesson 10.